This is the heartless one, the evil monster. Who dare you take the lives of my daughter Shannon, Bella, Celeste, and Nico? The cameras do not lie. You carry them out like trash of the house. Yes, I seen the videotape. You buried my daughter Shannon and Nico in a shallow grave, and then you put Bella and Celeste in huge containers of crude oil. You heartless monster.
Who was the heartless monster that brutally murdered two innocent girls and a pregnant mother? Was this another random murder, or someone had carefully planned an evil plot against them? Stay tuned to find out. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell. Without further ado, let's get started. Frederick is an ordinary town in Colorado, USA. Originally, it produced coal and attracted many immigrants to come and settle, but ever since the mine closed in 1928, the town declined. Only in recent years has it begun to recover. Sadly, this peaceful town was first known to the public precisely because of the story we are telling you today. At 1:48 a.m. on August 13, 2018, Shanann Erzuchek, 15 weeks pregnant, had just returned from a business trip. Her close friend Nicole Atkinson drove her home and before leaving, reminded Shanann about her pregnancy checkup appointment later that morning. A few hours passed, and Shanann missed her scheduled obstetrics and gynecology appointment. She wasn't replying to messages or answering phone calls, which was highly unusual. By 12:10 p.m., her friend Nicole couldn't wait any longer. She took her son and drove to Shanann's home at 2825 Saratoga Trail in Frederick, Colorado, a spacious 5-bedroom house. When they arrived, under the scorching sun, Nicole immediately noticed Shanann's car parked in the driveway, so theoretically, she couldn't have gone far. However, the front door and windows were shut tight. Nicole knocked and called out, but nobody answered. She checked the doors and windows. All were intact with no signs of forced entry. Peering through the windows, she couldn't see Shanann or her two daughters. Something felt terribly wrong. Nicole immediately called Shanann's husband Chris, hoping he might know where she and the kids were. Chris was an operator for Anadarko Petroleum who worked from early morning until late at night. He said when he left for work around 5 a.m., Shanann and the girls were still asleep. Alarmed by the situation, Chris immediately rushed home. While waiting for Chris, Nicole dialed the police, requesting a welfare check.
I dropped her off at her house at 2 in the morning last night because we were out of town together and we were on the way back from the airport, and she's having issues and she's pregnant. And I haven't been able to get a hold of her this morning, and I've gone to her house and her car's there and stuff like that, but she won't answer the doors, she won't answer phone calls, she won't answer text messages. And I'm just really, really concerned. And she had a doctor's appointment this morning, and she didn't go to it. And I don't know what to do. And then I said, Chris, can you just come home and check to make sure she's okay? Because the shoes she wears every single day are right inside her door. Okay. And he was like, yeah, I'll be there in 3 minutes. Well, that was 45 minutes ago. And I called him and asked him again, can you please come home? And he's like, I'm 45 minutes out.
By 1:40 p.m., an officer arrived. Shortly after, Chris pulled into the driveway, opened the door, and invited everyone inside. The house was eerily quiet, with no signs of forced entry or anything unusual except for a missing bedsheet. But after searching more carefully, they discovered that Shanann's wallet, phone, and daily medications were all still in the house. These days, who goes out without their wallet and phone? Moreover, Shanann worked as a product representative for a nutrition company and was constantly in touch with her clients. Her phone was always with her. Things clearly seemed off. The police started to focus on Chris, asking if his wife had said anything this morning. Chris said around 2 a.m. he returned home and found Shanann asleep. At 4 a.m., they woke up and had a calm conversation about divorce. Lately, their relationship had been strained, and both were in a bad mood. To ease the tension, Shanann suggested she would take the kids to a friend's house, but did not specify whose. By 5:30 a.m., he left for work. Later that day, he tried calling Shanann, but when she didn't answer, he assumed she was still upset with him. Police reviewed surveillance camera footage from nearby streets and neighbors, hoping to spot when Shanann or the children had left the house. Strangely, there were no images of them. The only footage captured was Chris Watts backing his truck into the garage at 5:27 a.m. and driving away at 5:45 a.m. Aside from this brief activity, the cameras revealed nothing. It began to seem as if Shanann and the children had never left the house at all, vanishing without a trace. Officers went door to door, questioning neighbors to see if anyone had spotted the pregnant mother and her 2 daughters. Everyone said no. Another day passed with no leads, deepening the mystery. Word of the missing family spread quickly through the small town, sparking rumors and wild theories. Some even whispered that evil spirits might be responsible, adding an eerie layer of unease to the already tense atmosphere. To avoid public panic, the FBI and Colorado State Police joined the investigation the next day. Dozens of officers, including specially trained K-9 units, arrived at Chris's home to conduct an extensive search of the house and surrounding property. Despite their efforts, the K-9s were unable to detect any trace of Shanann or her daughters. Chris was devastated. He made a heartfelt public plea.
My kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. I want everybody to just come home. Like, wherever they're at, come home. That's what I want.
Chris believed some bad person had kidnapped his wife and kids and pleaded for mercy. Hearing his sorrowful words, people sympathized greatly with him. The police also took the case very seriously, expanding their search area, adding more manpower, and posting missing person flyers everywhere. To expedite the case, they decided to investigate Shanann's background. Shanann Catherine Rzucek was born on October 10, 1984 in New Jersey, and later moved with her family to North Carolina. She was as beautiful as a doll, with large, bright eyes that warmed people's hearts. Her parents always said she was a gift from God. Unfortunately, fate did not smile upon this pretty young woman. At age 25, she was diagnosed with lupus, a chronic, incurable illness. Disaster struck again that same year when she was in a serious car accident. At her darkest moment, she met Christopher Lee Watts online. They frequently chatted and quickly became soulmates. Shanann fought bravely against her illness and gradually recovered. On November 3, 2012, they got married and moved to Frederick, Colorado. Their first daughter, Bella Marie Watts, was born on December 17, 2013. The second daughter, Celeste Catherine Cece Watts, was born on October 17, 2015. These 2 little girls made Shanann stronger and loved her life more than ever. The family was happy, but they were short of cash. Their total annual income was about $90,000, which sounds all right, but wasn't enough for all their expenses. They paid a $3,000 monthly mortgage, $600 in car payments, and carried $70,000 in credit card debt, along with student loans and medical costs. In July 2014, they were sued for not paying HOA dues to the Homeowners Association. Under mounting pressure, in June 2015, Chris filed for bankruptcy. At that time, the couple's bank accounts held only $9. Despite all of this, Shanann's love for Chris remained strong. By June 11, 2018, the couple was expecting their 3rd child, a boy named Nico. During the investigation, police learned that Shanann was outgoing and kind-hearted. It was unlikely that she would run away with her children. So who took the mother and daughters away, and how did they avoid being caught on camera? The police visited Shanann's friends and family to ask if she had shown any unusual behavior, and everyone repeated the same answer. Shanann's marriage had gone downhill. She told her friends that Chris did not want the 3rd child, even suggesting a divorce. According to Shanann's mother, Chris had once been a loving father and husband, but recently he had changed. He was 5 weeks late to the family's summer vacation and even ignored Shannann's health issues. Shannann's mother suspected that Chris was responsible for her daughter's disappearance. Shannann's friends confirmed that after the summer vacation, Chris had become another person. He no longer talked, hugged, or kissed Shanann. The couple seemed like strangers living under the same roof. Shanann suspected that Chris was seeing another woman, and her hunch was right. After examining Chris's communications, police found he was having an affair with a colleague named Nicole Kessinger. To pursue this relationship, Chris lied to Kessinger, claiming he was already divorced. The affair intensified while Shanann was away for the summer vacation. On July 4th, Chris invited Kessinger to a party, and they slept together. On July 14, they visited the Shelby American Collection Car Museum and spent the night at a nearby hotel. On July 30th, before going to North Carolina to reunite with Shanann, Chris wrote a sensual love letter for Kessinger. On August 4th, Kessinger bought a wedding dress online. On August 7th, Chris and Shanann finished their vacation and returned home. On August 9th, Shanann left for a work trip to Arizona. On August 11th, Chris hired a babysitter, dropped off his kids, and went on a date with Kessinger. Chris's phone had thousands of Kessinger's photos. Many were explicit. Although he used a secret app to hide these nude pictures, police were able to recover them. Juggling time between wife and mistress, Chris was truly a master of scheduling. On top of that, police discovered he also had one-night stands with other women. Around February 2018, he met a woman named Amanda on a dating app. When questioned by police, Amanda described Chris as wild and rough in bed. The police believed that Chris had been unfaithful multiple times. All evidence indicated he no longer loved his wife. A detective with expertise in psychology meticulously analyzed Chris's interview recordings and noted several suspicious behaviors. Chris looked very anxious, shifting his eyes side to side. Most tellingly, when speaking about his missing wife and children, he often referred to them in the past tense, like he knew they would never return. Shanann's friend, Nicole Atkinson, also provided police with two critical pieces of information. First, on the day Shanann went missing, Chris tried to dissuade her from calling the police, insisting he didn't want them involved. Second, during the review of surveillance footage from the neighbor's camera, Chris showed unusual nervousness. He stood with his arms folded, pacing in front of the monitor as if holding some terrible secret that was on the verge of being exposed. The neighbor who supplied the footage said that Chris had never backed his car into the garage. This was the only time. Taken together, these details raised huge red flags. If something terrible had happened in that house, Chris seemed like the only possible suspect. On August 15th, 3 days after the incident, police summoned Chris Watts to the station for formal questioning. In the interrogation room, Chris sat with one leg over the other, looking relaxed, calm, and confident. He vehemently denied any affair and said he had never harmed Shanann. However, one FBI profiler noticed that whenever discussed the disappearance of his family, Chris subconsciously touched his neck. Based on that physical clue, the profiler boldly hypothesized that Chris might have strangled Shanann. The profiler then offered Chris to take a polygraph test.
Did you physically cause Shanann's disappearance?
No.
Before 2018, did you ever say anything out of anger to a loved one?
No.
Are you lying about the last time you saw Shanann?
No.
Do you know where Shanann is now?
No.
Chris' polygraph test exposed his lies. He scored -18. Upon learning he had failed the test, Chris became visibly distressed. Sensing it was time, investigators brought Chris's father, Ronnie Watts, into the interrogation room, hoping he might open up to a trusted family member. And their tactics worked. With his father sitting across from him, Chris began to speak, revealing a version of the events that shocked everyone.
I didn't hear anything. When I was downstairs, I came back up and they were calling. I'm gonna let me talk I'm talking to her.
Chris claimed that he had proposed a separation, upsetting Shanann. The two began arguing. When he was on his way downstairs, he suddenly heard the children screaming. Returning to the bedroom, he found Shanann strangling their daughters. He lost control and in a rage choked Shanann until she died. Because the garage and bedroom were connected, he backed his car into the garage, wrapped the bodies in bed sheets, and drove to his company's oil field to hide them. That explained why neither Shanann nor the children were ever caught on camera. Using GPS data from Chris's truck, the police located the oil field about 100 kilometers from the house. They deployed a drone to search and took aerial photos. Sure enough, they found the missing bedsheet from Chris's house. Confronted with the aerial photos, the police demanded to know where he had hidden the bodies. Chris marked 3 spots, claiming his wife and 2 daughters were there. Following this lead, on August 16, 2018, police discovered the bodies of Shanann and her children in that desolate oil field. Shanann had been buried in a shallow grave, covered by a bedsheet. Her 2 daughters had been stuffed into separate oil tank. An autopsy by the medical examiner determined all 3 had died by strangulation. Shanann's neck had very distinct bruising and swelling, her nails were broken, and her mouth had a nearly 1.5 inches laceration. Her unborn child was so largely decomposed that gender and age cannot be determined. More disturbingly, the lids of the oil tanks were only 8 inches in diameter, which was really small. The children were brutally stuffed into the tanks by their own father. One of them had scratches on her left buttock from being shoved through this hole. A tuft of blonde hair was found on the edge of one of these hatches. About 75 milliliters of oil was found in her stomach, which indicated she was still alive when she was stuffed in the oil tank. At this point, Chris's story was under scrutiny. The idea that Shanann, a loving mother who was pregnant with their 3rd child, could kill her own daughters defied belief. Detectives suspected it was another lie to deflect blame.
You found a new life, and the only way to get that new life was to get rid of the old life. And I think that you killed these girls before their mom came home, and then killed Shanann. And that's what we're kind of left, that's what we have to believe, because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I think we're very, very close to the truth, but not quite there yet. So if you're not that monster...
I'm not a monster.
I didn't
kill my babies.
Why take their bodies out of the house and bury them?
I was scared. I didn't know what else to do.
Is Shanann here because she couldn't, like, could you not lift her all the way up there, or you couldn't? Would she have been too big to fit in that hole? Do you feel sorry for what you did?
Of course, I wouldn't have lost control and got on top of Shanann and did that.
Eventually, Chris Watts was charged with multiple crimes. These included 3 counts of first-degree murder, with an additional count per child cited as death of a child who had not yet attained 12 years of age, and the defendant was in a position of trust. He was also charged with unlawful termination of a pregnancy and 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body. On August 16, 2018, Chris Watts's murder trial began in Weld County, Colorado. Due to the severity of the charges, the judge denied him bail.
We know that our experts will tell us that it takes 2 to 4 minutes to strangle someone to death manually with their own hands. The horror that she felt as the man that she loved wrapped his hands around her throat and choked the life out of her must have been unimaginable. Even worse, what must Bella, age 4, and Celeste, age 3, must have experienced or thought as their father, the one man on this planet who was supposed to nurture and protect them, was snuffing out their lives. They both died from smothering. Let me say that again. The man seated to my right smothered his daughters. Why? Imagine the horror in Bella's mind as her father took her last breaths away. Your Honor, understand very clearly, Bella fought back for her life. The frenulum, the connective tissue between her upper lip and her gum, had a centimeter and a half laceration. She bit her tongue multiple times before she died. She fought back for her life as her father smothered her.
Confronted with overwhelming evidence and the accusations of Shanann's grieving family, Chris maintained his innocence, claiming that Shanann had murdered their daughters. At a second hearing on August 21, 2018, Chris still pleaded not guilty to all charges. Despite his denial, Shanann's family extended a merciful gesture. They would not pursue the death penalty if Chris admitted guilt, stating they had already lost 4 lives and did not want more deaths, even for the man who had taken their loved ones. In November 2018, Chris reached a plea agreement with prosecutors admitting that he killed Shanann, Bella, and Celeste in exchange for the death penalty being removed. Despite the plea deal, the presiding judge acknowledged the horrifying nature of the crime, making a pointed statement.
I've been a judicial officer now for starting my 17th year, and I could objectively say that this is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen.
At last, Chris was sentenced to 5 life terms, plus an additional 48 years for illegal termination of a pregnancy, and 36 years on 3 counts of evidence tampering, totaling 84 years. He escaped execution but will never be released from prison. After hearing the verdict, Shanann's father declared,
This is the heartless one, the evil monster. Who dare you take the lives of my daughters Shannon, Bella, Celeste, and Nico? I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them. And they also trusted you. The heartless monster, and then you take them out like trash. You disgust me. They were loving and caring people. You may have taken their bodies from me, but you will never take the love they had for me. Thought you would get away with this. I don't know how. The cameras do not lie. You carry them out like trash of the house. Yes, I seen the videotape. You buried my daughter Shannon and Nico in a shallow grave, and then you put Bella and Celeste in huge containers of crude oil. You heartless monster. You have to live with this vision every day of your life, and I hope you see that every time you close your eyes at night.
Now Chris is serving his life sentences in Dodge Correctional Institution, a maximum security prison in Waupun, Wisconsin. As for his motive, Chris refused to confess. Everyone thought the truth would forever be buried. But in September 2019, a book entitled The Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders would expose everything. The author had corresponded with Chris in prison, collecting his letters into a book. There, he revealed details even the police hadn't known, indicating that Chris had planned these actions in advance, truly shocking and without a shred of humanity. After the book release, detectives confronted Chris in prison, hoping to get a truthful confession. And this time, they were shocked by the inhumanity of a father. According to Chris, in the early morning of August 13th, while Shannon was still asleep, Chris quietly went to his daughter's room and tried smothering them with pillows. By some miracle, they revived. At that point, he was strangling Shannon until she stopped breathing. His daughters woke up and asked, "What's wrong with Mommy?"
Is that what happened, Billy? What she said? Mom. Did she hear something? Is that what she obviously? Okay. What did you tell me? I don't feel good.
Then Chris loaded them into the car and drove to the oil field. Shanann's body was at the girls' feet. Tragically, they were too little to realize their mother was already dead, or they would be next.
I strangled her right there in the backseat.
When arriving at the site, Chris strangled his younger daughter Celeste, while the older daughter Bella watched everything.
I then went down to Bella. Tell me what happened there. She said what happened to Cece. Or she asked, it was the same thing, the exact same thing that happened to me as Cece. Did she ask you that? Okay. So Bella's pretty smart.
Chris did not reply to Bella's questions, then mercilessly killed her. The poor little girl's last words before dying were, "No, Daddy." It was spine-chilling. His confession aligned with the police's theory of his motive. Why didn't Chris simply walk away? Why did he choose such an extreme path? What was he thinking as he ended his daughter's lives with his own hands? Did the haunting echoes of his wife and children question him late at night, asking why? But none of that matters now. The cold steel bars are his only companions. He will spend the rest of his days in regret and isolation, perhaps the most fitting punishment. Amazingly, even from behind bars, Chris received many letters from women professing their love. Some even included naked photos of themselves. One woman called Chris the most pleasant-looking man she'd ever seen. In one letter responding to those fans, Chris said, "I knew if I took my hands off of her, she would still keep me from Nikki. They asked me why she couldn't fight back. It's because she couldn't fight back. Her eyes filled with blood as she looked at me and she died. I knew she was gone when she relieved herself." In another letters, Chris even admitted to poison Shanann with OxyContin, hoping she would miscarry. He just wanted to free himself to marry his mistress. Shockingly, in 2024, Chris blamed his mistress, Nicole Kessinger, for plotting the murders of his family. In recent letters, he called Kessinger a Jezebel who led him to destruction. He wrote, "The words of a harlot have brought me low. Her flattering speech was like drops of honey that pierced my heart and soul. Little did I know that all her guests were in the chamber of death." Following this accusation, investigators uncovered that on the night of the murders, Nicole Kessinger was very near Chris Watts' house. This raised serious questions about her potential involvement or knowledge of the murders. About 5,000 people have signed a petition requesting to charge Kessinger for conspiring to commit murders and tampering with evidence. Though Kessinger has since changed her name and attempted to disappear from public view, authorities have located her and are actively investigating her connection to the case. The hope remains that Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico will receive the full measure of justice they deserve. The tragedy of Watts' family has since been made into various documentaries and films, including Netflix's American Murder: The Family Next Door, released in 2020. Chris, who once appeared to be the perfect husband and father, turned out to be a monster in human disguise. His brutal actions were fueled not only by a blind, lustful pursuit of his mistress, but also by his ultimate selfishness, cowardice, and lack of responsibility. He chose murder to solve marital issues and paid the ultimate price of life behind bars. So what do you think? Is Nicole Kessinger the mastermind behind Chris Watts? Should Shanann family choose to pursue death penalty till the end? Feel free to share your thought and conspiracy theories in the comments. If there's a case you're interested in, let us know. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.